initial reactions?
I had goosebumps.
Yeah, very powerful.
The screaming was the screaming.
Yeah, child screaming. Yeah.
So, what did you like about it? Be specific.
I like the music. I think that really set it well. I think it's really well chosen, the music.
I like the storytelling, how it went from the parents back to the actual story and then back to the parents, how they sort of talked you through it.
Okay. What do you think could be improved?
I thought it was an excellent short documentary. From my perspective, there was nothing that I could really pick holes in because, as you know, having been involved in these things over the years, in the past, in a previous life, it's really how things do go.
That was one of the challenges I faced because we were only able to do 5 minutes and the examiner's only going to mark 5 minutes and then she'll stop. Trying to fit what would normally be like an hour documentary into 5 minutes. So,
it would certainly give anybody that was interested a taste to take things further and look and look further. I think,
So you guys are my demographic, my target audience, and then obviously you've got Howie, who's maybe a bit more specialist in terms of like.
I would have never done anything like that myself.
Do you think you're all mothers, aren't you?
Yes.
Do you think because you're a mum, you're more inclined to maybe become invested in the storyline, or whether it's just kind of a universal thing, seeing a child in distress will get anyone involved, or whether because you're parents?
Probably does prick you more being a parent, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think anybody will look at a child in distress and be concerned about that, but when you have children of your own, you're then a certain age anyway, and emotionally you become more involved in.
I think, as I told you the last time, when you do something like an exorcism, you're a bit like a detective. Back to Midsummer Murders, and you've got to investigate the individual case. It can sometimes take days, weeks, before you actually make an assessment and decide what to do about it.
So he was quite right to leave it a bit.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll kind of just divide you in, and I'll ask you guys. Do you think they were believable parents? Like the representation of them.
Yeah.
They would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and their actions were justified.
There's certainly concern. So what would you do if you looked at all different avenues?
Yeah.
And obviously she's religious.
Yeah.
Then that might be something you might think of as a religious person. Perhaps you wouldn't think of as a non-religious person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then, did you think the guy who played Reverend Peters, who's called Rory? Do you reckon? Did you believe him as a reverend?
Yeah. I mean, he came across very well. I mean, you know, nobody had a big enough part to sort of really say, well, they're going to go to Hollywood. But yeah, I mean, I can't see anything wrong with what he did and what he said.
Mm-hmm. The process that he went through was believable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it something that you might watch passively, or do you know what I mean? Like, would you watch it over night time, like, oh, that's easy watching, I'll watch that, or would you be quite invested in it and watch it and concentrate on it?
You'd probably concentrate on it more, I think, because it's not, once you're watching it,
Yeah,
you're kind of
you
like a
have
little
to
bit drawn into it, aren't
Completely
you?
drawn in, yeah.
Where it's not something you can just sort of dip in and out of.
And because it's involving a child, you want to watch it to the end to make sure everything was all right, don't you?
You'd probably get hooked unless it was some sort of thing that, if you're the sort of person that it would frighten.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you'd either choose to watch something like that, or if it came on, I think if you got hooked, you'd watch it to the end, yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated by anything like this, supernatural, or because a lot of people who are attracted to the church have got real problems.
They're looking for a crutch.
Yeah, and you know, they've tried everything else. So, you know, they're very suggestible.
So the fact that they didn't go to the doctors, it heightens it even more because it can't be dealt with medically. It's even more scary, maybe.
Yeah.
It's the unknown, isn't it?
It is the unknown.
Yeah.
There's no sort of rhyme or reason to it.
And you're powerless. You can't actually.
Especially with the scratches, when they presumably just appeared, you can't answer that, and therefore it's something that you can't.
Happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, you know, I mean,
So because it's never, it is as Lorraine said in the focus group, it's not a closed-end subject.
No.
Do you did you believe she was possessed, or like how I said, maybe there could be a psychological element, maybe her brother scratched her back or whatever. So do you fully believe that she was possessed, or do you think that it could be psychological?
I'm always a sceptic, so
Yeah, I am too. But the fact the exorcism cured her suggests that she was. So the answer's already there.
And those scratches, you know, if it's if they were real scratches, and they were unexplainable by her, and they appeared on your child, I'd be very frightened.
And the ending, it was supposed to suggest that she wasn't fully cured. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Okay. And do you
and
think that's a
screaming,
more
yeah.
satisfying ending than she's fine, end of story?
It probably is. I think I said before, it's all very well, but I mean, most of us that have been involved in this don't do any follow-up in the years to come unless that person is involved with you within your parish or whatever.
Are they cured, or
Was
is
it
it
lying
just
dormant?
something that
Yes,
just
that's right.
Whenever you read case studies, it's always girls around about puberty. I don't
maybe
know why.
that's because they're more emotionally
And all the
susceptible,
hormonals
perhaps. Yeah.
imbalance is, going berserk.
And the end bit, I don't know. I think you saw it. It said based on true events. How do you think it would have? Do you think it would have affected you?
Blood.
Do you think it would have? Do you think it would have affected you?
More or
No.
less.
Do you think it would have affected you differently if you were told at the start of the film that it was based on true events? So if you were told at the end that it was based on true events? So watching it, knowing it was true, or only finding out at the end?
I don't know.
I think if you find out at the end, it gives an extra goosebump effect, if that's the terminology for it. At the beginning, you then choose to watch something
you
that's
could either
true.
look at it and
because,
think, I don't believe that's true at all.
Yeah, and you
You
can
could not put that
some people
in
choose
your mind
to look
first.
to watch fiction and some people choose to watch fact. But if you just watch it and then you're told at the end, you sort of think, oh, crikey.
That's
that
like watching
really-
a film and then at the end they go,
Yes,
and you go,
and that was based
that's
on-
a true story, and then it comes on the
Yeah.
credits.
Comes up,
I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, isn't
It
it?
reinforces it, I think.
One
Yeah.
called Quarantine, which was done entirely through one of the characters holding a night vision camera, and it was just awful to watch.
That's it. It's too much. Trying to make it really real and in the moment ruins.
Because I did
Yes,
notice,
yeah.
I unintentionally, there was very composed shots where it was like all the cameras on a tripod and I'm filming you directly and there's a nice little frame you've got going on there, but then at the start and during the exorcism it's a little bit more haphazard.
Yeah.
Did you like that contrast?
Yeah.
Otherwise it didn't get boring. Otherwise,
Well, it makes you involved in the action in a sense, doesn't it?
Without-
it
without
kind of
losing
changed
it.
the component, didn't it? So you thought, okay, that's being filmed. They're talking about how things have gone, and then you've got like this is happening, and they're filming it, and then you go back again to their thoughts on what was going on, after or before or whatever. So there was like it was put in a compartment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a hybrid genre of horror and documentary. If you could dub it a percentage, what would you half it as? More horror or more documentary?
I'd say more
Factual
documentary.
yeah.
Yeah? Cool, that's good. That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a. It doesn't set out
Wouldn't
to
say horror,
scare or
no,
to
chilling,
to shock
fact.
people.
Yeah.
It's
It's
fact.
chilling
Yeah.
facts.
Okay,
yeah.
so why would you, in terms of uses and gratifications, what did you get from this? Did you get more entertainment factor or more informativeness?
Informativeness. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say for me 50-50 because it was.
Oh, that's
I was
because your husband's
intrigued.
playing,
I was intrigued, and you want to see what the outcome is.
You definitely wouldn't start watching it and not get to the end. You
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
stop
Okay,
and
so it's-
not.
But you
That's
may
it.
not
Yeah.
see it in the television times or whatever and actually say, I'm going to watch that. Unless
Unless
you've
got an interest in
interest
something
in
like
it,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
But if you happened upon it,
Yeah,
I think you'd get hooked.
yeah, you would.
You'd want to see
Would.
it right through to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
end.
Do you think, I think maybe it's a nice little combination of
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, I'd say 50-50.
information, because if
Yeah.
it was just full out informative, it might get a little
Yeah,
bit
that's
dull.
like,
I
you
think you'd
sort of,
switched off.
Open university, you might not be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but because of that, most people could relate to it, couldn't they?
Yeah, in some way.
Yeah.
Sam, because it was filmed in your house and because it was your daughter and your husband, how did that affect you?
I was quite surprised that, as you say, it was my daughter, my home, my husband, and having seen it before you put music to it, how it chilled me. I mean, I had goosebumps even before the music was put in, and quite often you find the music is probably more
more
emotions. Yeah. So yes, I found it very chilling, even though I knew from the outset it wasn't real.
No, about the Americans
came across
and the religion,
the wife
wasn't it?
was American. That was something that.
Added to it or took away?
Well, I don't know whether she added to it. It was something I noticed.
Not being
She can edit that,
but
she can edit
to
it,
assume
fine.
they're American, you sort of assume Americans are very hot on their religion, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And
for
much
her
more-
to go
They're
down the
over the
avenue,
top.
just assuming
Yeah.
that it wasn't
They're
a
much
medical
more
issue,
au fait
that they would
than-
be,
yeah. Yeah.
possessed,
Yeah.
isn't something we would perhaps normally say
No, it wouldn't
straight
be the
away if
first
our
thought.
child
I
is,
don't think
is
I've ever
kicking
come across
off.
anybody who
That's
said,
right.
I think my child's
At
possessed,
school,
and actually meant
You
it.
quite often have that behaviour sometimes, don't you? But
would
you don't
probably be
automatically think I'm
At
going to
the
get
end of the road, where
baptised.
you'd actually sort of, if you were so desperate, you'd look to for a spiritual
right, yeah.
answer rather, if nothing else.
Being
worked.
British, yes, you're right. You would rule everything else
Yeah.
out unless.
And that would be the last, I think,
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
the last avenue I would explore
Yeah.
to be
Yeah,
a religious
Yeah, and quite rightly
avenue,
so, I
because
think.
it's just not,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But it was believable for her to do it.
yeah.
Yeah, you didn't.
I don't
feel
quite know
it.
what. Like, but it's probably because it's the whole American thing, or
That's right,
we
just-
assumed she was American.
The
And
fact
then
that it was
my-
explained that she was very heavily into
Yeah,
yeah.
she was into
religion, that would be her first avenue, because that's
Yeah.
her first thought of comfort. I can get this sorted out
Yeah.
this way, because obviously religion is a great comfort to her.
Yeah.
So that bit, her being Canadian, justified her actions more in a British person's mind.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
Because
it's more
you kind of
understandable
feel
that she went
they-
down that road.
Yeah.
And also knowing that she had got, some Christian
Strong.
upbringing,
Yeah.
because I think
The phone call, I don't know whether you noticed, but at the start of it, it was very much Karen, the mother, being like, okay, we're going to do this, I'm going to phone, and there's Steve in the background going, it's not going to work, and she's on the phone. And then after the scratches and the kicking off and the tantrums, they swap places, and the dad phones. What did that do to the narrative, or the pace of the narrative?
it showed that it was escalating in my mind.
Yeah.
It wasn't just continuing in a, just
It wasn't
odd
just her,
manner.
yeah.
It was a little bit more to it.
Was
There was a little
over to
bit
the
more.
cause and
It was a little bit more supernatural than just
She's got to come on
an
board with
autistic
the
child.
thought that
yeah,
they could have
yeah,
done that.
yeah.
Well, the
Also-
wife took it and took the issue to her priest or her with her
Religious
thought,
outlet.
and then he then gave credibility to it, which
Yeah.
then brought
Yeah.
the husband on board.
Credibility. Oh,
Yeah.
it's nice. If you had to pinpoint a religion onto that exorcism, which would it be?
I probably thought that the guy was an Anglican.
I think that's what I initially set out to, but I've been planning this film for so long I've forgotten.